Hey everybody, Jake here from Bearded Gear, and I've got a full review to do for you on this. This is the Guardian Tactical Recon 035, which I think just means it's the 3.5-inch blade version of the Recon knife that they make, because they also make an 040 or whatever. I think that's a 4-inch blade. It's a bigger one. So yeah, this is my first Guardian Tactical OTF. This is also my first real OTF that isn't a Microtech. I've had like really cheapo OTFs before, like just cheap, crappy gun show, who knows where they came from type of OTFs, like when I was a kid. But I've gone through a lot of Microtechs over the past year and a half or so. I've tried quite a few of them. The first Microtech I owned, I think, was a Combat Troodon, which was crazy. And then I ended up getting an Ultratech. It was a bounty hunter hellhound, really cool knife. I've had the Troodon, which I still have and now love. I have an Exto set now. I've tried the Dirac Delta. I had another Combat Troodon at some point. It was a bounty hunter one. I have a Scarab 2, just sitting right here. I need to do my full review on. I've had quite a few Microtechs. I'm probably forgetting some even, and those are just the OTFs, right? And so a lot of people have been talking, at least in the circles I run in over time, about the Guardian Tactical series of OTFs and how a lot of people make claims that they're better than the Microtech OTFs. So I got the opportunity to snag this one. I believe it was from my friend Tom, and I think it was a trade. I don't remember. It's been a while now. I've had this knife for months, and it's taken me a long time to get to it. It's taken me a long time to carry it and use it enough to feel like I could talk about it. And that's not because this knife is lame or unexciting. It's just because I've had a lot going on. But I've now gotten to a point where I've carried it plenty of times where I feel like I can talk about it from experience. And I've got the moment now where I can sit down and film this and do this, more importantly. But I'm going to have to do a kind of a head-to-head video between this and my Troodon, because I have a regular Troodon now, and it has become kind of my Goldilocks Microtech. I really like that knife. Most Microtechs I have found just don't stand the test of time for me, like this Scarab, which I listed for sale this evening. Awesome, really cool, very exciting knife. OTFs are always super exciting, right? Most knife guys, and even just most people, I think, find this exciting, right? But yeah, the Troodon has been the one that it's like checks enough boxes as an actual knife that I've kept it around, and I enjoy having it in my collection. And this occupies such a similar space. I even, for both of them, have them in OD green. They're both aluminum bodies. They both have black hardware, black switches, black coated blades. This one's, we'll talk about this blade finish. I don't like it, but yeah, they're all black and green, and they're similar sizes, and they seem like competitors in my mind. And so the question, I guess, going into this review is, do I like this more than the Microtech? And I'll have to do that head-to-head to really sort out what I think about it. But I don't think I do, which is kind of crazy, because a lot of the things that people say about these I find to be true, right? Like a lot of people talk about how this switch is better than the one on the Microtech because it runs on bearings on this like polished track. And I agree. I think this action is smoother. It fires just as well, if not better. But when I hold it side by side with my Troodon, and again, I'll have to do the video where I really talk through that, I don't think I like it more. And so, I don't know. I guess keep that in mind. If you're looking for the Cliff Notes version of this and whether I like it more than a Microtech or not, I don't think I do. And maybe, to be fair, this is also the first Guardian Tactical knife I've ever had. And I've had a bunch of Microtechs to finally narrow it down to the Troodon. So maybe I need to try some more from them. Maybe it's a different blade shape or finish or something would make me more excited than this one does. But this doesn't super just excite me. I don't find that like frankly, after I film this and do my head-to-head with the Troodon, this is probably going to be for sale. Because I don't know that I will feel a hole in my heart if it's gone. I think I'll be fine. But yeah, so let's just kind of go through it. A couple of things to mention right off the bat that I love compared to most Microtech knives. Look at the bottom of this knife. You'll notice something. There's no glass breaker. I think glass breakers are one of the dumbest things to ever grace the knife world with their presence. I disagree with the idea, philosophically, that they need to be on the butt end of a knife. Insert all of your arguments for why you need to get out of a submerged vehicle and your Microtech has to be the tool that's there to do it, or your knife with whatever knife it is that has a glass breaker on it. I don't see the merit. I don't think it's a useful enough feature to include on a whole line of knives. Let me say that. And I think it bugs me ergonomically. It bugs me sticking out of the pocket. I think they look dumb and weird. They just bug me. So the fact that Guardian Tactical makes their OTFs without one of these sticking off the end of them, to me, makes a big difference. Big point to this knife there. I should stay away from making this a total comparison because I'm gonna do that. But no glass breaker. Love that. The way that this knife, it's still got some rattle to it, but compared to, I don't know, I guess it feels a little bit more solid than most of the Microtechs that I've handled, OTF wise at this point. And OTFs, unless you're talking about a Hawk deadlock, they're gonna have blade play and the switch is gonna vibrate, and I expect it at this point. I wish that we were at a point where it wasn't just Hawk making OTFs that were capable of not making sounds like these. Like, as a knife guy, I get that OTFs are in their own class, but this kind of stuff, like, I don't know. Especially, it bothers me more on the really expensive ones. And these, I want to say I'm only in this knife it's like under $250, which is still a lot for a knife, but compared to, I'm in this one for over $700, and it rattles too. So those things bug me on OTFs. This one just feels a little bit less that way than some Microtechs. Maybe it's because it has like a little more heft to it than some of them. I'm not sure what it is. It's a little bit intangible for me still, but it feels a little bit more tight, even though it's still rattling as I say that. Yeah, I don't know. Let's just jump right into the review, I guess. One other thing. Here we go. One other thing that's worth mentioning, and there could be some Microtechs or other OTFs that do this, but I've confirmed this with some other people who own them. They put the tip right at the edge of the hole there to where, like, I can really feel it without even like pressing my finger in there. I feel like that, I don't know, is it really ever going to be an issue for me? Especially because this carries tip down in my pocket. It's not like I really have many opportunities to be running my finger up against there or anything. It just seems like a no-no to me in general to have the tip of a knife be accessible when the knife is closed, and it's pretty accessible on here. I feel like they could have reduced the blade length by a tiny bit and it would still be fine, and then you wouldn't have that. Or they could have increased the handle length by a tiny bit. It would still be fine, and you wouldn't have that. Just feels a little weird to me that that's a thing on these knives. Nitpicky and weird. Again, probably not a big issue. It's just one of those details that, like, once you see it, it's like, why, you know? All right, so let's jump into my typical things. Ergos, carry, cutting, action. I guess since it's an OTF, I usually start with ergos, but let's start with action because it's an OTF. So action is what it does, right? This, of course, is a double action OTF. If you're unfamiliar with what a single action OTF is, instead of it going out and in with the press of a button, it only goes out with the press of a button, if you're talking about a single action one. And then you have to pull, usually from down here, if it's like a Microtech Halo or something, sometimes it's on the side or whatever, you have to pull like a charging handle to pull the blade back in and like prime the spring, and that's what pulls it in, and then it only fires out. This one fires out and fires in. Double action. 2 actions, right? Goes both directions. So as double action OTFs go, I will say I agree with the people who say that they think this switch feels better, that it feels smoother This switch feels better than a Microtech switch to me in terms of the way that it glides. It's also less aggressive than most Microtech switches in terms of the serrations or the jimping on it, whatever you want to call it. It's not quite as like bite into the skin of your thumb level of traction as Microtechs are, but it's still plenty of traction, obviously, to operate. So I like that about it. I like that it runs on some bearings on this polished surface. It feels smooth. It feels good. I like that. I'll say that it fires as hard as most Microtechs I've ever had. Like, comparing it to this one, it's real close. It's not like limp when it's coming out, but it's also not so crazy that it's jumping out of my hand. It feels like a pretty typical double action OTF from my experience, but a little bit smoother on the button, and that's worth something. OTFs, to me, tend to be really, really exciting. Like, in the times when I've had none in my collection, it's always only a matter of time until I feel like I need another one, because there's just something alluring about doing that on, at least for me, at my core, on a human level. That's cool. Like, it just is. I don't know if it's action movies or what, but this feels fun to play with. And this being a little bit smoother, having a little bit more of, I'd say, kind of an approachable switch, feels good. I like it. Cue the Microtech fanboys who are going to be mad that I'm saying that switch is more aggressive for your thumb. It is. This is smoother. This is softer, and still has plenty of traction to work. So it is what it is. I like this action, I'd say, slightly better than most Microtechs that I've owned. I can't think of one off the top of my head that I like better in terms of a Microtech OTF. I think, yeah, it's probably pretty safe to say this is better action-wise. Not by a ton, but it's a little bit more refined. I like the action. There you go. Ergos. Ergonomically, I think this knife is pretty good. The aluminum is pretty smooth everywhere. You do have these kind of traction-y points up here. I don't really feel those much. I guess my pointer finger just barely gets there. If I choke up a little bit more, I get my pointer finger on it, but mostly it's a pretty smooth aluminum handle. You can see there are some grooves built in up here, so you've got kind of a forward groove and then a little bit of a secondary groove, if you will, and then even technically there's a little bit of a point there, and then it flattens out. But it's pretty neutral. Even if I land like right on the top of one of these grooves, they're not so formed or aggressive that they're like forcing me into a certain grip. I do kind of use them, but I also kind of don't. I tend to want to grab it back here so that I can use the switch as a thumb ramp. I just like that on OTFs. I feel more secure since there isn't really a guard otherwise. When I choke up, I feel a little worried about slipping forward. Maybe that's just me, but I like to be kind of back here with my thumb, and that tends to put my pointer finger back here. But it works. It's nice. It's not overly thick, but it's certainly not a thin OTF. There's definitely thinner out there. But yeah, it's not overly thick. It's fairly wide. It fills the hand well. It's comfortable. It's neutral enough that in any grip, it's going to be comfortable because it's just mostly rectangular. So, is what it is. But yeah, ergos are good. I like the ergos on this knife. Let's talk carry next. So, aluminum body, it's relatively light. I'll say it's not like super light for an OTF, but it's not an overly heavy knife in terms of felt weight. I don't have a scale here. I don't know how much this weighs, but to me, it feels like a reasonable amount of weight for the size of knife that it is. I'm not surprised by how light it is. I'm also not surprised by how heavy it is. It's just kind of feels like an aluminum bodied OTF to me. The pocket clip itself, it's pretty freaking deep for like a not loop over deep carry clip. Doesn't leave much sticking out of your pocket. To be totally fair, even OTFs that have glass breakers but have a deep carry clip, they have more sticking out of your pocket in terms of height a lot of the time because the freaking glass breaker sticks so far out of your pocket. So this just leaves a little bit of knife sticking out of your pocket. Really not too much. It carries fine. It's smooth under the pocket clip, so going in and out of pocket isn't a big deal. It looks kind of shallow there at the front part of the clip, but I haven't found, I thought looking at it before putting it in my pocket that it was going to be more difficult to get in and out of pocket, or that it would be snaggy or something. It just hasn't been. I think a lot of it's just how smooth it is under there, but carries fine. It's not super lightweight, it's not super thin, it's not trying to be a bug out killer. It exists in a totally different space being an OTF. But it doesn't feel special in pocket, but it's also totally fine, totally comfortable to carry, and it's no big deal. Of course, I only carried this when I was not in the state of California. Of course. Got it. Of course. So, yeah, carries fine. That leaves us with cutting performance. So, OTFs in general, I've gone on record saying, I've done a comparison video, especially with double-edged versions, aren't really focused on like slicing tasks like many other folding knives are, right? So this is a single-edged OTF, but still the way that most OTF designs function, they're not really going for thin slicey grinds, right? Like this still absolutely looks like it's made for piercing, even though it's not double-edged. With this swedge up here being as dramatic as it is, it's really, spear point is kind of the way I see that. But it's single-edged, right? You've got this fuller up here, which is interesting to me because it serves absolutely no functional purpose unless it's doing something internally that I'm not aware of. It looks like it would be something that would be great for middle finger flicking if this was a folder, but yeah, the blade profile, it's thick behind the edge. It's going to be because it's a thick blade stock and it's a saber grind that's only going 50% up a relatively narrow blade to begin with. So it's pretty thick behind the edge. It's not the thickest OTF behind the edge that I've ever felt, not even close. There's been some that have been worse, but it's just not like a super slicey profile. It's a pretty stabby profile though. So as OTFs go, I feel like it's got a good edge on it. It's an okay cutting profile. It will slice things. There's a point that I've tried to make a number of times. It's not that they're incapable of cutting. It's that they're inferior to knives that are designed to slice. So like, this is tuning my own horn here a little bit, but Luft Concepts Avant, knife that I co-designed, has a taller grind, which is also hollow, and is brought down way thinner behind the edge, so that it can slice through materials like cardboard, etc. easier. And it will, and it does, compared to this knife. But if I need to process a bunch of cardboard and this is the knife in my pocket, absolutely it'll work. Like, it's not the end of the day. It'll be fine. Not the end of the world, I should say. Maybe it is at the end of the day that I'm doing it. That's often when I process cardboard. Anyway, it cuts fine. I think this blade profile, as OTF knives go, makes pretty good sense. I do, like, I don't know. On OTFs, I tend to prefer double-edged blades because I feel like it's the platform that it makes the most sense to house a double-edged blade in, because when you have a folding knife, if this was double-edged, you'd be in danger because this would all be sharp, right? Like, the fact that it's an OTF and everything goes inside of the handle makes it an excellent host for a double-edged blade. And double edges are cool. They're exciting, like OTFs are. They seem to kind of go together, in my opinion. But there's utility to having a single-edged OTF in the sense that you can still press on the spine of this knife. I can choke up pretty well here, and I can actually apply pressure to the back of the blade, and I can press through with more force, being able to push on the spine, right? If this was a double-edged knife, you would not want to press on the spine because it wouldn't be a spine, it would be an edge, right? So, like, this blade shape is fairly usable as OTFs go, but I feel like if you're having, like, a pretty thick behind-the-edge profile and a shape that is designed to pierce, not as much to slice, why not just go all the way and have the double-edged blade? I don't know. And maybe I'd like this better if it was double-edged. I probably would, to be honest, because I just find them more exciting. This knife would be more exciting to me if it was double-edged. The other kind of gripe I have with it, let me make sure I've covered all my bases first. We've talked ergos, action, carry, and cutting. Okay, yeah. So the other thing that makes me not love this knife in particular is just this finishing. It's got like a worn finish, so it appears to be DLC to me, coated on the blade and the switch and the clip, and it's kind of like on the Bounty Hunter series of knives from Microtech, how they like purposely scuff them up like it's Mandalorian armor. But on here, there's no like excuse for it, I guess. It's just for people who maybe would feel so bad about beating up a nice finish that they want it to look pre-beaten up. And sometimes, like, I've heard that said about like stonewash and stuff, but stonewash I think still done well and done the right way in the right application can look nice, especially because it's so uniform. But this to me is just, I don't know, I'm sure there are some people who love it. I would be more okay with it, I think, if it was kind of on these like on the lines of the blade, on the, I don't know what you would even call that, like the raised points where you can see the grinds meeting the flat. If those were kind of worn, that would make more sense to me. But it's these weird, it's too pattern-like. It's not random enough, the way there's these lines on the blade. I just don't like the look of that. It looks like, I don't know. I don't know what process they did to rough it up. On the button, I guess it doesn't bother me as much, but I'd like it better if it was just all black. Like, the hardware is just all black, and that looks good to me. But then you get, like, the clip and the switch, and, like, just, I don't know. I don't like the way that it's pre-scuffed up for me in this application. It just doesn't get me going, you know. In fact, it kind of turns me off a little bit. I just don't love it. I think it would look better if it was just proper DLC or PVD or whatever, or if it was satin or stone washed. But this weird, like, roughed up finish, like it's been to war and back, doesn't make sense to me, especially because the handles aren't, you know, like the aluminum looks immaculate. They didn't do anything to rough that up. So maybe that's part of why, like, there's inconsistency with it in my brain. I don't know. I don't love that. But maybe another configuration of this knife, if it was double-edged and had a cooler finish, would make me more excited. Maybe it wouldn't. I don't know. I'm going to compare this one to the Troodon because they're the two that I have, and they're very similar in terms of spec, although that one is double-edged and the DLC isn't pre-roughed up. But they're close, right? So I guess we'll call that what it is. I think this knife is nice. I think I can, again, like I started with, I can see why people prefer this over Microtech. I think certainly there's a good, strong case that these are a better value because Microtechs are freaking expensive. But at the end of the day, like, I'm keeping my Troodon and I'm not keeping this. So it is what it is. Value is subjective, and I like the other one better. But this is nice. The action's a little bit better. Like I said, it's good. It fires hard. It feels decent in hand. It carries pretty well. Like, it is a good OTF by all measurable standards. It just doesn't excite me, and I think that's fair to say. So there you have it. Guardian Tactical Recon 035 with whatever you call this finish on it. And I guess that'll be the full review. So thanks for checking it out, guys. Sorry that this took me freaking forever, and we'll see you on the next one.